Up for and by the people, you are the guest, you are the host, you are the sponsor. Welcome back to our show. Don't go. We're gonna continue reading Think and Grow Rich like we have been. We took a little break because you need breaks sometimes, but we're not gonna give up. Don't go. We're gonna keep reading the book like we have been doing, and we're trying to go all the way and read the entire book so that we can see firsthand whether it's possible to really think and grow rich. You think it's possible? You think it is? Think and grow rich. Let us start reading the book. Think and grow rich as we have been doing and will continue to do. Let us make it a little bigger and let us continue reading. Exactly where we left off. Let us get everything ready, and here we are. Let us read. But by the side of Andrew Carnegie's gigantic vertical trust, a trust owned and operated by 53 partners, those other combinations were Péchy. They might combine to the heart's content, but the whole lot of them couldn't make a dent in the Carnegie organization, and Morgan knew it. Morgan knew it very well. Morgan knew it. The eccentric old Scott knew it too. Scott knew it. Morgan knew it. From the magnificent heights of Skybolt Castle, he had viewed, first with amusement and then with resentment, the attempts of Morgan's smaller companies to cut into his business. When the attempts became too bold, Carnegie's temper was translated into anger and retaliation. He got angry. Anger and retaliation. He decided to duplicate every mill owned by his rivals. Hitherto, he hadn't been interested in wire, pipe, hoops, or sheet. Instead, he was content to sell such companies the raw steel and let them work it into whatever shape they wanted. Now, with Schwab as his chief and able lieutenant, he planned to drive his enemies to the wall. Planned to drive his enemies to the wall. Let us continue. So it was that in the speech of Charles Schwab, Morgan saw the answer to his problem of combination. A trust without Carnegie, giant of them all, would be no trust at all. A plum pudding, as one writer said, without the plums. Schwab's speech on the night of December 12, 1900 undoubtedly carried the inference, though not the pledge, that the vast Carnegie enterprise could be brought under the Morgan tent. He talked of the world future for steel, of reorganization for efficiency, of specialization, of the scraping of unsuccessful mills and concentration of effort on the flourishing properties, of economies in the ore traffic, of economies in overhead and administrative departments, of capturing foreign markets. More than that, he told the buccaneers among them wherein lay the errors of their customary piracy. So Carnegie, his mind of a great entrepreneur, a big-time industrial genius, he was thinking, seeing expansion. He was thinking, seeing big-time growth, going to international waters. You know, when you start a business, if you are going for the small mom and pops little store, that's okay. That's how a lot of people start. Amazon started in a little garage. Many of this big time Google, Tesla started in little rooms, offices, garages. But what matters, like in the book now, is that the mentality of the person who is going to start the business. Like, how far do you see? How much vision do you have? And they might call you crazy if you think that from such a small company, such a small place, you will go to the heights of Google or Amazon. As a matter of fact, anybody would have called Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs crazy. And the reason why they became who they became is because they didn't listen. Because I'm sure that somebody did call them crazy. And remember, you're not crazy. And if it's your birthday, happy birthday to you. Let us keep reading. Remember, you're not crazy for thinking big. Let us keep reading a little more. Let's keep reading. More than that, he told the buccaneers among them were inlaid the errors of their customary piracy. Their purposes, he inferred, bad being to create monopolies, raise prices, and pay themselves fat dividends out of privilege. Schwab condemned the system in his heartiest manner. The short-sightedness of such a policy, he told his hearers, lay in the fact that it restricted the market in an era where everything cried for expansion. By cheapening the cost of steel, he argued, an ever-expanding market would be created, more uses for steel would be devised, and a goodly portion of the world's trade could be captured. Actually, though, he did not know it. Schwab was an apostle of modern mass production. Modern mass production. So Schwab wanted for the market to grow. These people wanted to limit the market, make a monopoly. So they were just thinking of themselves, right? Money for themselves, the market for themselves. They have control. They say what's good, what's not good. But Schwab was a good guy. For some reason, when you have good intentions, you get to a point where you reap good results. When you are trying to help others or produce for everyone, you are in a sense creating, you are in a sense multiplying for others, and you multiply for yourself somehow. You can call it karma, the universe, whatever you want to call it, but somehow, some way, as Schwab said, he wanted to give to others, and that which he was thinking would lead to mass production, which is creating more and expanding the market and being able to sell it cheaper. And if you sell it cheaper, then you might have a lot more people that want to buy it, and now your price is not higher, but you have a lot more people that want to buy, which makes you make more money. So do good, being good, and good shall come back to you. Actually, though, he did not know it. Schwab was the apostle of modern mass production. So the dinner at the university club came to an end. Morgan went home to think about Schwab's rosy predictions. Schwab went back to Pittsburgh to run the steel business for Andrew Carnegie, while Gary and the rest went back to the stock tickers to fiddle around in anticipation of the next move. Let's continue. It was not long coming. It took Morgan about 1 week to digest the feast of reasons Schwab had placed before him. When he had assured himself that no financial indigestion was to result, he sent for Schwab and found that young man rather coy. Mr. Carnegie, Schwab indicated, might not like it if he found the trusted company president had been flirting with the emperor of Wall Street, the street upon which Carnegie was resolved never to tread. Then it was suggested by John W. Gates, the go-between, that if Schwab happened to be in the Bellevue Hotel in Philadelphia, J.P. Morgan might also happen to be there. When Schwab arrived, however, Morgan was inconveniently ill at his New York home, and so, on the elder man's present invitation, Schwab went to New York and presented himself at the door of the financier's library. Now, certain economic historians have professed the belief that from the beginning to the end of the drama, the stage was set by Andrew Carnegie. Set up the dinner to Schwab, the famous speech, the Sunday night conference between Schwab and the Money King, were events arranged by the canny Scott. The truth is exactly the opposite. When Schwab was called in to consummate the deal, he didn't even know whether the little boss, as Andrew was called, would so much as listen to an offer to sell. Would he even listen to an offer to sell? So much to listen to an offer to sell, particularly to a group of men whom Andrew regarded as being endowed with something less than holiness. The Schwab did take into the conference with him, in his own handwriting, 6 sheets of copperplate figures representing to his mind the physical worth and the potential earning capacity of every steel company he regarded as an essential star in the new metal firmament. 4 men pondered over these figures all night. The chief, of course, was Morgan, steadfast in his belief in the divine right of money. With him was his aristocratic partner, Robert Bacon, a scholar and a gentleman. The third was John W. Gates, whom Morgan scorned as a gambler and used as a tool. The fourth was Schwab, who knew more about the process of making and selling steel than any whole group of men then living. Schwab knew more about the process than anybody else. Throughout the conference, the Pittsburghers' figures were never questioned. If he said a company was worth so much, then it was worth that much and no more. He was insistent, too, upon including in the combination only those concerns he nominated. So there is always an advantage. There is always a plus to know your industry in and out, left to right, to be the one man that everybody knows more than all the others, because in that way everybody would go to you for advice. They would depend on your word. They would want to know what you think, how you see things, because you are the man that knows. So knowledge is power, basically. Knowledge is power. The more you know your industry, the more they're gonna need you, the more they're gonna depend on you. And they might even pay you for your advice, consulting. So like Carnegie, we must make the effort and attempt in any way possible to become the best in the industry.
the best in the industry. Sofia, so let us continue reading. Let us continue reading. And here we go. Give me 1 second. Okay. If he said a company was worth so much, then he was worth that much and no more. He was insistent too upon including in the combination only those concerns he nominated. He had conceived a corporation in which there would be no duplication, not even to satisfy the greed of friends who wanted to unload their companies upon the broad Morgan shoulders. Thus he left out by design a number of the larger concerns upon which the walruses and carpenters of Wall Street had cast hungry eyes. Hungry eyes. Let us see. When dawn came, Morgan rose and straightened his back. Only one question remained. Do you think you can persuade Andrew Carnegie to sell? He asked. I can try, said Schwab. If you can get him to sell, I will undertake the matter, said Morgan. So far so good. But would Carnegie sell? How much would he demand? Schwab thought about $320 million. What would he take payment in? Common or preferred? Stocks, bonds, cash? Nobody could raise $1/3 billion in cash. There was a golf game in January of the frost-cracking heat of the St. Andrews Links in Westchester, with Andrew bundled up in sweaters against the cold, and Charlie talking volubly, as usual to keep his spirits up, but no word of business was mentioned until the pair sat down in the cozy warmth of the Carnegie cottage hard by. Then, with the same persuasiveness that had hypnotized 80 millionaires at the University Club, Schwab poured out the glittering promises of retirement and comfort of untold millions to satisfy the old man's social caprices. Carnegie capitulated, wrote a figure on a slip of paper, handed it to Schwab and said, "All right, that's what we'll sell for." The figure was approximately 400 million and was reached by taking the 320 million mentioned by Schwab as a basic figure and adding to it 80 million to represent the increased capital value over the previous 2 years. Later, on the deck of a transatlantic liner, the Scotsman said ruefully to Morgan, "I wish I had asked you for 100 million more. If you had asked for it, you would have gotten it." Morgan told him cheerfully, "Sometimes we're afraid to ask because we say there's no way that's gonna happen. Sometimes we think if we ask for that, there's no way in heaven that I will ever get it. No way. But it's funny that if we ask, sometimes we would get that thing that we say or think that there's no way in heaven I could ever get that. If we do ask, we might get it. Ask, and you shall receive." Because it could be embarrassing, like getting rejected and not getting that thing which you were asking for. But on the other hand, I guess the happiness of getting the thing is far higher, greater. It by much overshadows the embarrassment that would come, or the risk, like the risk that you're taking, you know what I mean? So sometimes there's no risk at all. We just don't ask because we think there's no way, but ask just in case. Who knows? You might get a yes when you least suspect it.
You might get a yes when you least expect it. Let us continue to read. If you ask for it, you have gotten it, Morgan told him cheerfully. There was an uproar, of course. A British correspondent cabled that the foreign steel world was appalled by the gigantic combination. President Hadley of Yale declared that unless trusts were regulated, the country might expect an emperor in Washington within the next 25 years. But that able stag manipulator Keen went at his work of showing the new stock at the public so vigorously that all the excess water, estimated by some at nearly 600 million, was absorbed in a twinkling. So Carnegie had his millions, and the Morgan Syndicate has 62 millions for all this trouble, and all the boys from Gaze to Gary had their millions. Millionaires everywhere. You know, it's funny, you could be one of those millionaires. We could be that. The funny thing is that people see millionaires and they think that there's beings from another planet, beings from another galaxy, human beings with superpowers, but it's not the case. You, my friend, could be a millionaire too, because they're human beings, like me and you. Let us keep reading. Keep reading more. I know, it gets you a little tired, but the more you read, the more you grow, the more you pay attention, the closer you get to becoming a millionaire. The more you learn. Don't stop. It's not a sprint, it's more a marathon, little by little. We have to finish this book. Let's keep going. Let us keep going. 38-year-old Schwab had his reward. 38, he had his money reward. He was made president of the new corporation and remained in control until 1930. The dramatic story of big business, which you have just finished, was included in this book because it is a perfect illustration of the method by which desire can be transmuted into its physical equivalent, from desire to physical. I imagine some readers will question the statement that a mere intangible desire can be converted into its physical equivalent. Doubtless some will say you cannot convert nothing into something. The answer is in the story of United States still. Desire seems to be something physical, something that's in our head, but that somehow has some value in chemistry, biology, physics, and has power. And the power is manifested in the physical expression of our desire. What do you think of that? Follow us, subscribe, please help us out. We are on YouTube. If you are seeing on YouTube, you see the screen. Subscribe. We are on Spotify and every other platform for podcasts as a podcast. So please subscribe, follow us, like, listen to us, and help us out. Why not? Let us continue to read. Let us continue to read. Nothing, something. The answer is in the story of the United States. Still, the giant organization was created in the mind of one man. The plan by which the organization was provided with the steel mills that gave his financial stability was created in the mind of the same man. His faith, his desire, his imagination, his persistence were the real ingredients that went into the United States steel. Faith, desire, imagination, persistent apparently can achieve almost anything. Anything is possible. Faith, desire, imagination, persistence in one mind can take over the world. The steel mills and the mechanical equipment acquired by the corporation after it had been brought into legal existence were incidental, but careful analysis will disclose the fact that the appraised value of the properties acquired by the corporation increased in value by an estimated $600 million. By the mere transaction which consolidated them under one management. In other words, Charles Schwab's idea plus the faith with which he conveyed it to the minds of J.P. Morgan and the others was marketed for a profit of approximately $600 million. Now think of that. From idea to $600 million. Like the idea had to start. The company had the company for it to exist. It had to start in the mind of a man or a group of men as an idea, a thought. And then you add the faith, you add the persistence, you add the discipline, you add the thought, process, thinking, belief. And after a few years you might end up with a company worth $600 million. $600 million. So let us leave it right there. Thank you so much for listening. Keep coming back. We're gonna read the whole entire thing little by little. We're gonna make it. Thank you for listening. We'll see you later. Take care. Goodbye.